I serve everybody that comes in, gay, straight, Catholic, Muslim, atheist. I welcome everybody into my shop. I just don't create cakes for every event.
And that very sentiment now on the docket in the highest court in the land. The potentially landmark case started 5 years ago when the man you just heard, the owner of the Masterpiece Cake Shop in suburban Denver, refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple, saying same-sex marriage is against his religious beliefs. Jack Phillips is his name, says forcing him to bake that cake would violate his freedom of expression and religion under the First Amendment. But the couple he turned down, you see them there, David Mullins and Charlie Craig, say refusing to serve them is simply illegal discrimination. The dispute has worked its way up to the Supreme Court, which will hear arguments Tuesday in one of the most closely watched cases of its term. Let's bring in our legal panel now. Former prosecutor Robert Schalk, now a defense attorney, and Rachel Self, a trial attorney. And Robert, you're up first on this one. Is this case about religious freedom or civil rights?
Well, it's more whether or not it's civil rights, because Phillips is saying that his civil rights are being infringed by Colorado's anti-discrimination laws, in the sense that he wants to have a carve-out for the anti-discrimination law, which says you can't discriminate against someone's creed, sex, sexual orientation, etc., in the sense that I make cakes for everybody, I just don't want to do it for this small event. The problem that he's running into is that he never found out what the cake wanted to say. He told them within 20 seconds of meeting with them, I will not make a cake for you. And I think that is where it's going to be an issue for him being successful here.
Rachel, is this a case of religious freedom or civil rights?
I think that it's a case that we need to look at as a religious exception to civil rights. And so what they're trying to do is cloak this in and violate these gentlemen's civil rights by saying, well, it's against my religion in order to do this. And unfortunately, I really don't think that he has a leg to stand on here, because a market transaction has never been covered by free speech. And so when he didn't even find out what they wanted to put on the cake, and within 20 seconds of meeting them said, oh, well, I don't believe in what that is, I think that it runs afoul of the anti-discrimination laws in Colorado. So, and what it does is it's, go ahead.
No, you finish, I'm sorry.
What it does is it causes a potentially dangerous precedent where people can then say, well, I don't want to serve people who are a different color than me because of my religious beliefs. I don't want to prescribe birth control to this person because of my religious beliefs. I don't want to give guidance to an LGBT youth because of my religious beliefs. And in our country, we've already made it very clear that that's not okay. So the Supreme Court is going to decide that.
Yeah, okay. Robert, getting you back in here. Colorado Civil Rights Commission sued the cake shop for violating the state's anti-discrimination laws, and now that is what's being appealed with in the high court. So I ask you, Robert, will the anti-discrimination argument fly in the high court?
No, I don't believe it's going to. The anti-discrimination argument that Phillips is going to try to say is, listen, I didn't violate, they're violating my rights by requiring me to adhere to the state law. However, the Supreme Court and the case law is clear that says if the laws on the books apply equally to everyone at the same time and across the board, a minor infringement of an individual's First Amendment right will not trump having that law thrown out. So him saying it infringes on my freedom of speech, it infringes on my First Amendment rights, it infringes on my right to religion is not going to cause this entire legislation, this entire law in the books to be thrown out in Colorado, in my opinion.
So, Rachel, talk about the precedent that could be set by the Supreme Court's decision in this case.
Well, hopefully the precedent is going to be that it's discrimination to not serve people based on their sexual orientation, because then what that does is that sends it down a different path. If they rule in favor of the baker, what you potentially have is also a baker who could decide that they think Catholicism is wrong and that Catholics are the devil, and that it's sacrilegious to perform any sort of Catholic rites, so they're not going to bake a First Communion cake. I mean, it leads you down this very dangerous path of discrimination for the wrong reasons. And while free speech is absolutely protected here, market transaction has never been considered to be free speech. We're not forcing this guy to bake a cake and write something on it that he doesn't believe in. We don't force that. We don't force T-shirt manufacturers to print T-shirts with messages they don't believe in. Here, what we have is a man who, within 20 seconds of meeting a couple, decided he wasn't going to serve them, and that was based on their sexual orientation, which has been made in this country and under Colorado law wrong.
Robert, what's the likely outcome?
As you can probably tell by the manner in which I've been answering the questions, I don't think that Mr. Phillips is going to be successful here. I think it'll be close, probably 5-4 if you look at the breakdown of the way the court's situated right now with regards to, everyone reading the tea leaves as to who's going to go which way. But I would think it's going to be very close, more likely than not 5-4. Justice Roberts has been the one who has written all of the decisions and set the precedent in the Supreme Court when it comes to LGBT rights. So I would expect him to have a big play here.
So that means you said you don't think Mr. Phillips will be successful.
He will not be successful. I do not expect that, no.
The cake shop owner.
The cake shop owner, correct.
And what does that mean quickly, Rachel?
Well, what that means is that people will not be able to then start to couch service of particular goods, and selling things, and small businesses won't be able to discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation, which would be a good thing in the right direction.
Rachel Self, Robert Schoch, nice to see you both. Thank you very much.